been a while since I've gotten to talk about Innis, but since he finally got his Nidhogg Refine, I thought it was a good time to revisit him. Nidhogg is a legendary bow with the standard 14 might. Its original effect did not change with any upgrade, and it's still the same effect that Awatomes have. During combat, for every ally Innis is standing next to, he gets +2 to all stats. This is a pretty defensive skill most of the time because it's easier to set up Innis next to his team and let the enemy come to him. However, if you grab the special upgrade for Nidhogg, it's gonna change Innis' playstyle a bit. Nidhogg's special effect is simply that magic and dragon foes cannot counterattack. To make things clear, magic foes are tome users or mages, and that does not include staff wielding healers. As for the cannot counterattack part, this means that when Innis initiates against mages and dragons, they cannot retaliate in any way. This is pretty great. It's almost like adding water sweep minus working on staff users. However, it does not prevent Innis from attacking twice, and of course he doesn't need to be faster than the enemy, he just gets to attack for free. Now for mages, this is great because they were already Innis' strongest matchups, and now he gets to attack them for free when he does have to initiate. As for dragons, who are usually much tougher and have higher defense values, Innis can completely avoid the adaptive damage counterattacks that would usually end up destroying him. Adaptive damage and dragons having access to distant counter weapons make them great counters to range units, and plus they are usually built for the enemy phase. Now Innis can actually attack into them and not have to worry about getting killed on the counter. Something small I want to mention regarding Nidhogg is how well it works if you pair Innis up with an ally support. Well, I suppose the same logic applies for any Awatome users. Nidhogg grants +2 to all stats when next to one ally. Ally support also grants +2 to all stats when next to the supported unit. Therefore, you can get an easy +4 to all stats if you make sure Innis stands next to his ally support, assuming they have S rank. For example, to take advantage of Nidhogg's more offensive capabilities, I've ally supported Innis with his sister Tana because Tana is a flying unit with guidance. I can use Tana to airdrop Innis in spots, and he can benefit from the ally support bonus. I think if you're going to use Innis and Nidhogg, then definitely try to see if you can pair him up with anyone on the same team. So what kind of role does Innis and upgraded Nidhogg provide for a team? First off, Nidhogg's two effects do kind of clash with each other. The regular Awatome effect is more defensive, while the upgrade to prevent counterattacks is purely offensive. As mentioned, it's just easier to set up Innis next to more teammates for enemy phase baiting. You can try to remedy this by using skills such as guidance, but that does require more planning. Regarding the upgraded effect, it does only work on mages and dragons, so it's not exactly going to protect Innis from every threat out there. For example, Arena is filled with distant counter melee units still, and well, Innis and his terrible physical bulk are still going to get destroyed, which brings me to my next point. Innis still has a primary focus on fighting mages. He has good speed and resistance, and the stat boost from Nidhogg makes him a decent mage tank. Do keep in mind that Innis has 33 attack and 34 speed, and that does give him some offensive power. Now when he attacks mages, he can initiate against them freely, allowing him to deal damage without having to worry about getting hit. Despite retaining good matchups versus mage foes, Innis will still heavily struggle versus physical damage threats, and of course dragons who get to attack him first. However, with the upgraded Nidhogg, I think Innis gets a good range of build variety now. I think he'll be a unit that can make use of different builds tailored to specific situations. You can try to be more offensive and bully mage and dragon units, or Innis can stick to his defensive team setups by stacking stats from allies. You can also try to find a middle ground. If you want a build that is extremely flexible, then I think Innis is a great user of Fury when he stacks it with the stat boost from Nidhogg. Now since Fury will begin to drop his HP steadily, we can actually take advantage of this and use the new Brazen Attack and Res seal to give Innis a huge attack and res boost. The extra resistance can potentially save him from multiple mage attacks, and the +7 attack will boost both his offensive and defensive capabilities. A neutral Innis with Fury and Brazen can reach 57 attack unbuffed, and honestly that's pretty darn good for taking out squishy mages or even chunking out melee units. Since Fury also bumps up Innis' res stat, I think Speed Ploy would work wonders here to improve his chances at getting more follow-ups. Now here's where the build becomes super flexible. It comes down to what B skill you choose. Vantage and Desperation both synergize with Fury plus Brazen, and Innis can either stay safe from initiations, or he can start sweeping teams using Brazen Attack's huge attack boost. If you want Innis to play a more supportive role, Chill Speed or Chill Attack can do just that. If Innis has to deal with a powerful mage foe, then these skills can cripple them and make them easier to defeat. Some rarer skills you can choose are the Link skills. I think Attack and Speed Link or Speed and Resistance Link are both good options. This just stacks more stats on top of what Nidhogg can provide, and of course Fury and Brazen Attack and Res too. If you want to be annoying, then skills like Dull Ranged, Guard, and Cancel Affinity can make Innis a situational threat. Dull Ranged helps fight Blade Tome users, Guard can work offensively when Innis free hits mages or dragons but doesn't finish them off, and Cancel Affinity deals with Raven Tomes with Triangle Adept. Basically, these skills just bolster Innis' matchups against mages for the most part and grants him some extra insurance against more powerful enemies. Last, there is always the breaker skills. Now, I'm mainly thinking about this in terms of PvE, but maybe you have a weakness to sword users in your arena team. You can throw on Sword Breaker to deal with those threats. Going back to PvE, maybe you just need Innis to double a specific unit on a map, and that's where any specific breaker can come in. Remember that colorless bow users can use almost any breaker skill, so if there's a pesky lance wielding rival on the field, then Innis can use Lance Breaker to get that guaranteed follow-up. This Fury plus Brazen build doesn't have longevity in mind, but it can take a hit at the start and you can customize to your heart's content. If you want a more generic enemy phase build, then you do have the option to refine Nidhogg for extra resistance if you want. This adds magical bulk to Innis, and you're going to be depending on good position to get Innis as much stats as possible. This is very much a mage tanking setup since Innis has such low defense that he may still lose to other archers or dagger units. Distant defense is an obvious choice for Sacred Seals, and Quick Repose is there for the guaranteed double. Attack Ploy can help improve Innis' tanking potential. For A skills, you have a pretty large choice. Attack and Res Bond seems pretty good, and the Bond skills do synergize with Nidhogg since you have to be standing next to an ally anyway. Attack and Speed Bond or Speed and Resistance Bond could be other options. If you don't have those, then double distant defense could work, or even just Innis' natural fortress resistance. Now for more offensive setups, we want Innis to be an annoying threat for mages and dragon units. Chill Speed can neutralize fast mages, and giving Innis more attacking speed can hopefully allow him to take out a mage in 2 hits. For that reason, skills like Swift Sparrow and a Speed Seal are good choices. You could also try using the Flashing Blade to charge up Glacies for free. The idea being you target a slower mage or dragon enemy and Innis hits them twice, charging Glacies for the next turn. I think this could be a fun setup for PvE maps, but it's only dealing single target damage. If you know me, I love my Savage Blow builds. This one is targeted at dealing with super annoying enemy phase built dragons and dragon emblem teams. I know most dragons are pretty beefy, but even if Innis isn't dealing a ton of damage, he can still apply Poison Strike and Savage Blow safely. With upgraded Nidhogg, he doesn't have to worry about getting blasted into the next century from Lightning Breath and the usual Steady Breath and Quick Repose combo that's behind it. While I like Poison Strike for chipping away at really tanky targets, you could also use Guard to not charge up their specials as much. This might be better if Innis has to be saved by allies and you don't want those teammates getting hit by a fully charged Aether. So in review, upgraded Nidhogg grants player phase utility against mages and dragons. The ability to deny counterattacks is very powerful in this game, especially in arena where enemy phase builds are extremely common. Do keep in mind that Nidhogg has 14 might and a Fire Sweep bow only has 11 might. This means Innis can dish out more damage compared to a Fire Sweep bow in exchange for only working on 2 enemy types. However, Nidhogg can even get more damage thanks to its own Owl Tome effect. Even then, Innis can at least retaliate unlike Fire Sweep weapons, so Nidhogg isn't a pure player phase weapon. As we covered, Innis can take on all kinds of different builds now. You can play more offensively when there are a ton of mages and dragons on the field. For PvE, both common enemy types, so I think I'll be having fun with Innis there. Not to mention, he's still an archer and they are still effective against flying units. If you don't want to build purely offensively, Nidhogg still supports its defensive playstyle and you can go with the Res Refine if you really want. With the guard bow now being a thing, I'm not entirely sure if Nidhogg is the better defensive bow for Innis. Overall, upgraded Nidhogg really doesn't synergize with its old effect, but rather it provides a completely new ability for Innis. Being the only Owl Tome bow, it's still a cool and unique weapon, but now having the ability to prevent counterattacks from mages and dragons, it brings some offensive utility to Innis as a unit. For example, in Arena Assault, if you run into a Dragon Emblem team, you can pull out Innis and a Dancer to wreak havoc on a team that can't even fight back. Upgraded Nidhogg is way better than using Water Sweep since Innis can still attack twice, not to mention he doesn't have to worry about speedy dragons like Summer Young Tiki. With adaptive damage on all dragon breaths, range units have really taken a hit, and Innis being one of the few who can completely negate that makes him a great unit. I think it's just the dual nature of Nidhogg that I really like. You can have a great enemy phase mage tank, or you can go on the offensive against mage or dragon heavy teams. The high versatility of build options is a lot of fun, and you can bring Innis to all kinds of situations. I think it's a good upgrade, and I'm happy that I can use my Innis more, despite him having a plus defense and minus res nature, which is not that amazing. Thanks for watching, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.